Welcome to the Finance Geeks podcast with Paul Cleworth and Warren Shute. Two financial planners shoot the breeze while sharing tips for making the most of your money and living your best life. And now over to the geeks in the studio, but they are not in a studio. They are geeks in their own office.
Hello and welcome to episode 12 of the Finance Geeks podcast. Thanks for joining us. My name is Warren Shute and I'm here joined by
Paul Cleworth.
And today is a very special episode. We're talking about couples and money, so relationships and money. So stay tuned. Got some great tips and snippets at the end for you to take on board to your spouses. So Paul, what have you been up to?
I've been riding my motorbike, Warren.
Really?
Yeah. Not very often, not as often as I'd like. I've got a CCM Spitfire Cafe Racer, right? So it's about 6 years old, but it's meant to look like a 50s Cafe Racer, and it's a single cylinder, 600cc, twin pipe, very very loud, very awkward to ride. But it's been sitting in my garage for ages on a battery optimizer, and just a couple of days ago I took it to the MOT garage because the tax had run out and I needed the MOT as well. So the annual ride, if you like, to the MOT garage to get it MOT'd so I can tax it. And I rocked up there, and they were all like, "Oh, look at this bike! It's very unusual. It's one of 250 that they make." And the front, because I hadn't bothered pumping up the front tire, it was at 8 psi, and it's supposed to be at 36. So I was wondering why it wasn't riding properly. But when they'd pumped them all up properly, and it passed its MOT fine, I went for a bit of a half an hour, whiz around on it, and I loved it. There's a big grin on my face, and really got lost in Luton. In the depths of Luton, and I just, honest to God, I didn't know where I was. I was trying to get back. There's no sat nav on it. You can't see it unless you try to put it on your phone on it. So I couldn't see where I was going. Yesterday we had some team shots. So we had our photographer Joe Haley of Striking Places. Shout out to Joe. She's brilliant. She's done all of our photography previously, but we had okay weather for new headshots for all the team and team shots. And she brought in this little drone and did some high shots, some flying around shots as well. And it's all a bit bizarre because your eyes are watering and you're smiling at the camera and you're trying to hold your smile, looking all unnatural, and then you look down and then you look up and you smile like this, So we had loads of those. And last thing is, I played golf last week with Kevin at Woburn, which is very nice. Good. Yeah. So we played pretty average. I mean, I hadn't played in about a year, so it was some of the holes were good, but a lot of them were dreadful. And we walked over 20,000 steps. Had breakfast, had lunch afterwards. It was a delightful day.
It's I'm gonna get back into the golf, which is great. And it's, I think what I love about golf is sometimes you can play, you're an amazing player and you have fantastic, and then you go back the next day and say, "Yeah, I'm gonna play well again," and you just think, "Where was the player yesterday? What happened?" So,
completely. If you hit a good drive, it's almost like you want to walk away. It's like, I've had a good shot. I'll just go all now.
It's Friday, say we're recording this. I've got 18 holes tomorrow with some friends on Mitchenhampton Common, which is a lovely, gorgeous course. And then 18 holes on Sunday at Shrivenham. So, looking forward to playing that with Ollie. So that'll be good.
So what else have you been up to then?
I'm doing a lot of training, got 3 peaks. So I was 50 this year, if I haven't told anyone. And I've got lots of celebrations throughout the year. And my celebration for this month, which is June, so I've basically got a celebration each month of the year. My celebration for June is to do the 3 peaks over a course of 3 days. We're away for 5 with 2 old school friends. So we've hired a motorhome and we're going to crack on the Take That tunes. We're back in the 1990s and drive up
80s. You want an 80s playlist with Phil Collins, and a bit of NXS and Prince and David Bowie. Get some of that on.
It's you are good with your music, I must say. I remember coming back from Penny Fen with you, and you did have some good tunes on that.
Penny Van. Penny Fen.
Yeah, Penny Van. Sorry. Yeah.
So you're going to do the 3 peaks. That's good. So what training are you actually doing for it? Are there any hills near you where you can get out and train?
Penny Fan's the closest big hill that we can do.
Yeah.
I do live on an incline where I am, so there is a relatively short but very steep incline through a field that we've done a few training packs on with some weights and things. But do you know what? I think I'm okay. I've done it a few times, and I've done a bit.
Just take your time; you'll be fine.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And
what else have you been up to?
Big shout out to Delcor McLaren. So I do education talks in schools and workplaces, and particularly for my own clients. And Delcor McLaren's big firm of Charles Surveyors had their annual festival near Silverstone, actually, last week. And I went out there and spoke to 400 plus.
How did that go?
Fantastic, really good.
No heckling?
No heckling. No. It's
Oh, I should have been there. I'd have heckled you.
you would have done, definitely. The irony is, you know Keith Button.
I do,
One of
yeah.
Keith Button's employees' husbands was there.
Okay.
So that was a real sort of, wow, that shocked me. But yeah, great guy, great venue. And it's a really good company. I always believe success leaves clues. And when I want to look at culture for my own company, I look at that and think, okay, what can I model? What can I emulate from what they're doing?
So what did you talk to the audience about then?
So in my book, The Money Plan is 5 steps pretty much that I go through my own clients. And since I published the book, I've put together a presentation which I go into workplaces and deliver. So it's basically the 5 steps of the money plan. You know, what's your outcome? You know, get financially well organised, do the foundations, pay down your debt, invest the money. It's great. You have lots of questions from the younger audience saying, you know, how do I get on the housing ladder? And this is a bit controversial, but when I do presentations just for the younger audience, I do a like-for-like comparison that Nikki and I bought our first house back in 1995. Yes, admittedly, the house was like 70 plus £1,000, but the interest rates were 8%. We had no lifetime ISAs.
Okay.
And I look at them today where interest rates are, okay, they've gone up now, but last time I did it, they were particularly low. They got the helped by ISA and stuff like that. So I do a question. In overall, the audience does agree with me. Okay, it's not massively dissimilar. You had challenges then with interest rates and the cost of the mortgage. We have challenges now getting the actual deposit and stuff like that.
It's relative, though, isn't it, to your position, your earnings, you know, the multiples, the costs, and it's I mean, I'd have said generally it's harder to get onto the property ladder now, all things relative to incomes and property prices than it was 20 years ago.
I don't disagree, and you get lots of questions like that. I have 2 lifetime goals, 2 outcomes in life that I really want to achieve before I retire. One of those is to get financial education into schools. That's one of my big things. And I've actually got a meeting this afternoon with the headmaster of a private school to say, hey, look, you know, what's going to happen to get this on the day-to-day curriculum? So,
They don't talk about it enough, do they, at schools? I mean, there is a little bit. I mean, at the local school for my boy, for Miles Hitchin boys, apparently they have some classes when they're in the 6th form where they talk a little bit about it, but I don't think it's as structured, and it's certainly not from a registered, regulated financial planner talking about real life stuff, you know.
But that leads us really nicely onto our main focal point of the show, which is relationships and money. And I think really what baggage we bring with us into our relationship, both on our habits day to day, but also in our finances. So I thought it was particularly important today for us to sort of cover off relationships and money, what's good, what's not good, that kind of thing. And I'll leave you with some skills, listener, that you might want to then take into your own relationship. And I can tell you, it's a real popular piece that I write for the Mirror every year. That's the one that in kids gets a lot of feedback from the readers. So,
Yeah.
Okay, Paul. I know this is not going to be exhaustive. What are the more common financial problems that you probably see with your clients in money?
Well, first of all, the preference for myself is always to see couples together. And, you know, I'm a big advocate of complete honesty and transparency when it comes to finance between husband and wife. So most of my clients are couples, but there are obviously still ones that are single, and some of them that come in, they're not married. So there's a difference there, of course, if they're just partners as opposed to married. But for couples, whether married or not, the biggest issue, I think, is there's discrepancies between their relationship with money, how much they earn, you know, and whether they're sort of spenders or savers, you know, their general relationship with money. I think it's almost always the case that one of the couple earns more than the other.
Yeah.
And it can lead to an issue straight away.
Dynamic, isn't it?
Between them. Yeah, the difference in the dynamic. I mean, you get more often than not one person earning more than the other. But even if the couple have got children, very often it's the man who's working and the wife who's looking after children or working part-time. I mean, not always the case, of course, and I don't want to come across as a sort of sexist or whatever, but that's often the reality. And I think that you can tell from whether when you first meet them, are they both interested in finance and money, or is it generally one person out of the two that deals with the finances? And it's not always the one that earns the money. Sometimes the husband earns the money, the wife says, well, I deal with all of this, and he just provides, and the wife deals with the money and sorts it out and, you know, manages the bank account. Do you find that as well?
Completely. I think one of the two generalization are leading this whole thing. And if it's the one that earns the money, they want to maximize the return, maximize the money. And often they want to find an exit. So i.e. they want to try and get financially free so they can stop doing the pressure job that they earn so much money from. And if it's the partner who doesn't earn the money, it's often led by fear of, well, what happens if he or she dies? What happens if he or she leaves me? How am I going to cope? That kind of thing, because I don't have that spending power. But what I try and spend a lot of time on with clients is, what does money mean? What does money mean to you? And then trying to elicit that. And from my own example, when I first got together with my wife, Nikki, she would go off and enjoy herself with her friends, go off shopping, come back, all the shopping bags, and have a fantastic day. Okay. I would look at her and I'd feel a bit of a resentment or annoyance. And luckily,
I hope she's not listening to this.
No, we've spoken about it. And I share this on stage because I think we've learned from it. We've developed from it. And communication, I think you mentioned it, communication and discussing things is so important. So we sat down, we spoke about it. And I said, what does money mean to you? And it was like freedom, fun, enjoyment, all these sort of things. I said, well, what does money mean to you, Warren? I'm like, well, security. Really, that's it. It's freedom, but freedom from the worries of money and financial security. So we were covering it from different ways. She was spending this thing, having freedom. I was looking at her spend these things, thinking, you're taking my freedom away from me. You're taking my security away from me. It was only when we discussed that and aired it that we put some strategies in place, which we can discuss later on the show, that allowed us to move forward. And we never ran about money, literally never.
Yeah. I asked a client of mine once who was in his 80s. I was playing golf with him, and I said to him, he's been married like nearly 50 years. And I said, what's the key to a happy marriage? And he just said, do as you're told. Now, I think that the issue with money, more often than not, is it's emotive, and it can absolutely give you choices and freedom and security, but it can cause a lot of issues and headache as well. And so I think that absolute transparency and when the clients come to see us and they want someone to help them, having them both understand what's coming in, what's going out, and the numbers is very, very important. It doesn't bother me if one person takes the lead and sort of is a bit more interested than the other. And if that's the case, we end up talking about things other than money, like their lives, what they enjoy doing, where they see themselves, how their career's developing. I mean, what they do with their spare time, that sort of stuff. So I'll tell you later about some of the strategies that I have, some examples with clients as to how we do that and how what their relationship is together with money, and one of the best ways to approach it.
And that sort of leads us on to the point that I wanted to make sure we covered. I think we have really, but putting a label on it is around the psychology of relationships and money. It's hard enough building a relationship anyway. Okay, making sure that you meet each other's values and you have a common goal and things like that. But having money in the mix, and then where there's money disparity, one earning more than the other, it's really addressing that before the relationship matures. Arguably, even if you're starting out, what a great conversation. My son Ollie's, in a relationship, and I know when he decides to sort of move out and stuff, one thing I'll encourage him and his beautiful partner to do is say, hey, look, sit down and talk about money. What are your plans? If you decide to have a family, what's the outcome here? What you're sort of doing? So, I think it's really important to clear the air and have a plan. So
it's easy to say that though, but it's money's a taboo subject for a lot of people. They don't like talking about it. It brings stress and anxiety just discussing the numbers, and they'd rather live in a sort of a fantasy world of not really knowing. I think that's true for a lot of people. They're getting through the day and they're staying afloat, but they don't want to know sometimes how much they're spending and taking responsibility for what's on credit cards and loans and everything else. It's the first step, as you say, getting organized to achieving that clarity, that financial well-being that we talked about in the last episode, is just knowing where you're at.
Yeah, and I liken it to your health so much as well. So having your bloods taken every year, know where you are with your baseline, and then addressing something. I'll be in a client meeting. We always recommend our clients have annual medicals, and I'll have clients who just don't want to take a medical. They just don't want it because in their argument is, well, do you know what, I'm fit and healthy. And I think if I was told there was something wrong with me, I would start worrying about that, and then my health will start to decline. It's not too dissimilar about finances. I'll keep
Completely.
burying it away. I'll enjoy my life. I'll have fun, that sort of stuff. It will take care of itself. But unfortunately, it doesn't.
I know, and you've got to take that responsibility. And initially engage together. If you're going a marriage, is obviously you're pooling your assets and your finances essentially, and it will only work properly. This is me giving marriage guidance. It only really works if there's a mutual understanding of the numbers, of the assets of who holds what, and then covering off the what ifs and the various contingencies. And as part of a meaningful, financial plan, the advisor would talk to them about, well, what happens if this person passes away or loses their job or is sick or whatever, and making sure the others, including the surviving spouse and the kids, are all okay. So I think one of we were hitting the nail on the head there. One of the most common financial problems regarding money is the failure to sort of pool the earnings and actually understand as a couple, as a team, what's coming in and what's going out.
Okay, so that's a great place to start. So the strategies for managing money as a couple and having a successful relationship with money in a relationship. I think, to recap what you said, pool the money. Is that just to agree with that?
No, knowing what the incomes are and what the outgoings are, that's important, I think. But I think a healthy relationship with money, and it's different for different ages, I think, but certainly in the younger years, is to have a bank account each, and then have a joint bank account. And all of your bills, your mortgage costs, your council tax, gas, electric, water, all the bills will come out of a joint account. And again, this is very relevant, I think, even if one party to the couple isn't working. But especially if they're both working, they both earn income, and then they decide based on how much they earn, how much to contribute to that joint account to assist with those monthly running costs. The relevance is not only being fair, relative to the size of your income, but also it's very sensible if someone's very ill, or if someone loses capacity, or if someone dies. It's way better from a financial point of view to have those commitments, those debts in joint names, because otherwise the bank account's frozen and you can't get access. So, and having the separate accounts gives a little bit of independence. So if you want to buy something for someone else or do something or spend your own money, you've got that. And again, it comes down to the honesty then as well, rather than failing to disclose, if you like, what accounts you've got and what savings you've got.
Yeah, and we even go one step further. We kind of sort of say to clients that, if you can run like you're saying, you operate like you're saying, which is something we completely advocate. If you're then going to make a big purchase, just run it past the other individual and have a mutual respect there to say, hey, look, I want to go and buy this thing, which is expensive, and expensive is relative to your own income. What do you think? Are you happy for me to go and do this? This is what my plan is. This is why I want it, that kind of thing. And it's not about everything being equal. It's just about having a mutual respect for the other person.
One of the terms that you and I looked up earlier on was the issue of having debt and having financial infidelity. Right? So I like the term, because if it's very unhealthy, I think, to disguise your finances from the other in a marriage, and have debt on a credit card that the other one doesn't know about, take out a loan without telling them. That's not going to end well if the other person finds out. When I said before that it's healthy to have a joint account, two separate accounts, for the more elderly couples I work with that are in their 60s and 70s, it's far more common in that case to have one joint bank account, and that they just have everything go into that account and everything goes out, and they've been married for so long and together so long, they're just going, well, why? It's just confusion having two or three. Why do we have that? We just got one. And I like that. That shows absolute trust and transparency. One account where they can see what comes in and what goes out.
It's no, definitely. I'm sure you have, I do too, have experiences and examples of clients where there's been financial infidelity. I've got clients where I've met with them, and I'm like, what do you mean? I can't discuss this loan with your husband. He doesn't know about it. I can't do that. Morally, this isn't healthy. Let's have a conversation together. And do you want to broach it with him before we meet or at the meeting? He was doing that. Also, squirreling money away. often it's the lower income earner just having a safety net squirreled away they don't share. I'm like, this isn't healthy. We need transparency. Make sure it's all opening and clear between you both.
You end up being a marriage counsellor, though, sometimes, don't you? You have to be there as an impartial, witness almost, an advisor to both of them. And I'm sure you have as well, maritals in meetings. It doesn't happen that often, but when you've completed spreadsheets showing what income, what assets there are, and you're talking about how to allocate them, and then the other one pipes up, oh yeah, but I want to do this, I want to buy this car, and they go, no, we don't want to do that. So I heard recently, again, one of my favorite podcasters and authors, Morgan Housel, he said it's actually more healthy to have two spenders together or two savers together, rather than have a couple where one's a spender and one's a saver. That can lead to lots of problems if one likes to save money and one likes to spend it. It just can lead to conflict. I don't know if you agree with that.
Actually, I don't agree, because naturally, Nikki is naturally a spender. She'll buy, not necessarily even on herself, she'll buy everyone everything that she can. Whereas I'm naturally a saver, an investor. I like to invest money.
Well, opposites can attract. I know what you mean.
Yeah. And I think we've got now, through communication and being open, of saying, okay, this is we refer to it as wham, your walkabout money. This is your wham. You go and do what you want with it. If you want to go and buy all your friends gifts and take them out for lunch and stuff like that, then that brings you pleasure and joy. I'm happy with that.
It's interesting, though, what people spend on. So if you've got a really good understanding of the value of things, and you also know what income's coming in and what's going out. So for example, someone who has a really healthy combined income, let's say that it is between £5,000 and £10,000 a month of combined net income, and they say, right, well, you can have £1,000 spending money a month, and this person, the other one, can have £1,000, and then that person decides to buy themselves something for £200. Relative to the income coming in, it's not very much. And so if they decide to do that and you've agreed it beforehand, it's fine. It doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. The issue is when the couples are on not a huge amount of income, but one then buys themselves a 12-grand motorbike just without telling the other, or they overspend, one or both of them, on a holiday and buy things that they can't afford. And again, it then causes potential conflict, and it's not taking that responsibility of saying, well, should we agree this? What's the alternative? What's the opportunity cost of spending all this money? So the balance often, and I do find myself being a counsellor, the balance is to get that balance between spending and saving, to get it right. Spending money on yourself and saving for your future. Tricky to do.
It is. But if you have a conversation and you have a plan, then it's a lot easier to do. So we will encourage our clients to have a financial date night, a money date night. Not all of them do it, but we encourage it. And that's really an opportunity for you to catch up. Now, Nikki and I do it every week. So every week, virtually 52 weeks of the year, maybe it's about 48 weeks of the year, we have holidays and stuff off. We sit down and because I don't want to be talking about money all the time. Money's just part of the relationship. It's not the relationship. But anything financial, anything to do with the family, sit down. And in fact, we're going to do it today. And then we'll just plan out. And then about once a quarter, we'll just align with what the bigger term goals are and that kind of thing. But if you're both on the same hymn sheet, if you're both working towards retirement, whether that's an age or a number for you, whatever it might be, if you're working towards that retirement age, you're giving up pleasures today for a pleasure tomorrow. You're giving up that nicer holiday so that you can retire and spend more time together at a later date, that kind of thing. Or whatever it might be for you. So, and I think it's healthy to have these check-ins. I think you're absolutely right when you said, people don't like talking about money. It's unspoken. It raises a lot of emotion stuff. But I think that nulls itself, that softens the more often you do. And there mustn't be any judgment. It's just listen.
Yeah. Well, the once a year meetings that we have with clients, the ones that are on our goal plan, where we have a financial report produced every year, and it's all about, am I on track, and that sort of thing. Often with clients, that's for the ones that I've been working with a long time, that's the one time a year when they really do check in with each other as to what's going on. How often do you really want to talk about it? If it's the bone of contention all the time, if it's the source of arguments all the time, then there's an issue. There's no question. There's something going on that's wrong there. So you get the money in balance, don't you? You get the difference between what one person earns and what the other earns, and then you get another scenario whereby let's say one person earns 100,000 a year, the other earns 20,000 a year. We've got a higher rate taxpayer and a lower rate taxpayer. And as the advisor, I'd be saying to them, right, well, you don't ask the question, do you trust your partner? But I would be saying, on the assumption that they do, and in my head, I'd be like, well, your surplus savings, let's put them in your wife's name if she's the lower income earner, because it's more tax efficient. And so you do get that a lot, where in some obscene situations where a considerable amount of money is in the lower or non-taxpayer's name. And I don't know what the husband's thinking if he earns £1 million a year and his wife doesn't earn, and all the money's in her name. You'd have to have this very trusting relationship, of course. But when you're married, it's all joint money anyway. I mean, unless you're squirreling it away and not telling them, it all is all joint anyway. So you might as well utilize those tax breaks between the two of you and save excess monies in the lower or non-taxpayer's name.
No. Completely agree with that. I think the important is the transparency in having these conversations, and arguably setting some kind of financial boundaries around, okay, what's the plan here? How much are we going to allocate towards holidays? How much are we going to allocate towards sort of general spending or groceries, what that might be? And this discretionary spending, this private wham money that I refer to, or your own personal spending that you mentioned, how much are we going to do that? And should that be equal? So for example, in our relationship, out of that wham money comes our groceries. So Nikki actually gets a larger amount of money than I do, because she does our sort of weekly grocery shopping. And she did also say, hey, look, when you talk about money today, make sure you do bring up the fact that technology always seems to get the green light in our household. So when you say, what you spend your money on, for me, it generally is tech, that kind of thing. You mentioned this new camera that I'm using here today that you've got. I just went and bought it. It's just quite nice to have it. She goes, it doesn't seem to have any sort of boundaries or limits on that. So we're not all perfect. I'm just sort of saying that we've got these sort of aims in life that we try to.
Yeah, there's 2 points I wanted to make there, because that's really, really interesting how you work and it obviously is a successful working marriage, because A, you work together, and B, you've been together a long time. And Nikki's great. But I was going to say that some people have a level of which they if they spend more than £100 or £500, they want to do more research, they get nervous. I think my wife's level is about £50. If it's anything more than that, it's like, I don't know. And for me, it's considerably higher. I won't think twice about getting something that's 10 times as much. Okay, I've got the money, I'll go and buy that. But the second thing there is if you're buying things for the house, that's interesting. Someone says I'm buying things through the business, so I'm buying stuff for the house, as opposed to for the other person. I mean, you've got to be very careful about who you say it's for. I have couples that where the husband gives the wife an allowance, or a housekeeping allowance. I hate that. I just don't call it that. Yeah. You agree that you spend £800 a month on food, which is pretty common, that sort of figure, between a couple and with kids, and you put that money in the joint account, and it's not that it's their money. It's not saying that's your money, dear wife. Can you go and spend that on the groceries? It's like, come on, get a grip. You've got different roles, in who looks after the house, the kids, who looks after this, then the other, who earns what. But it's a team effort, isn't it? So it should be transparent. The joint account and 2 separate ones, I think, works better in that regard. But the financial boundaries in terms of how much you can spend, don't go and buy a 10 grand holiday if you've got 5 grand in your holiday account. That's not a good decision.
And I think we're pretty much aligned to you. We have a joint bills account. We have our emergency fund, and then we spend on credit cards to get the air miles and stuff, and then they just get cleared every month. So it's very transparent, our spending. And you spoke about the roles of the relationship. Nikki at Venice is the day-to-day kind of thing. She'll do the day-to-day, making sure everything's clear, and she does a great job of it. A much more sort of strategy, making sure we're moving in the right direction, making sure the money's invested. And I think that kind of reflects our almost personality, that she enjoys the sort of spending side of things, whereas I enjoy the investing and the wealth accumulation side of things.
I don't think it's healthy to sort of have meetings too often, or both be involved in something, like we're both managing the budget. It's got to be one person or the other. And as long as you're agreed as to the numbers largely, and as you said, allocating the monies fairly, it works better if you have an arrangement and then you get on with it, rather than to review it all the time. Because discussions about money and, you bought that, have you? And it becomes very judgmental very quickly. oh, you've bought that £300 piece of clothing. Oh, that's not fair. Or where's mine? Or whatever. And if you've each got separate monies to spend, and then you end up spending it, that's fine. I think it's almost easier. One of the rules we have in our house is that all my money is Alison's money, and all her money is her money, and all joint money is her money. So as long as we know that that's the case, we've agreed that it's all Alison's anyway, then it's fine. And I'm pretty happy with that. Yeah. Part of a happy marriage. Talk to me about the difference in risk profiles between couples that you've experienced. Because if people have got different risk profiles, different understandings of how their money's invested and allocated, and their marriage, it can lead to issues and arguments and so forth. So how do you address that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a great question. I think as a general rule of thumb, the higher earner tends to be a little bit more adventurous with their risk profile, and the lower earner tends to be safer in their approach.
Yeah.
And that kind of reflects the lower earner generally wants to save some money, have some money in a reserve. I think because opportunities are not as abundant necessarily financially for them. But we take a very pragmatic approach that if you are accumulating your money, so in other words, if you're growing your wealth, our starting point should be 100% equity. So really, we look at it as an education piece. So let me just educate you without sounding patronizing. Let me teach you how the markets work and why they fluctuate. And a big key for people is when you realize that the markets are typically down only 1 in every 4 years, so 25% of the time. And then when they are negative, they're only negative single digits, not often double digits. That's a real eye-opener for people to say, so they're more willing to accept more equity exposure. Now, not everyone, so those that are not, we dilute it down, but we try and encourage them. And if they do dilute it down, our aim, and we're open with them, is to allow them to feel more comfortable with that money so we can move them towards 100% over time. So that's how we deal with it. We would start with an education piece, start with 100% equity, understand where they are, and then dilute it down if necessary.
Yeah. I'm more than happy for couples to have different risk profiles if they want, but I think it can be odd if they're completely disparate. So if you've got one that's the highest risk profile, 100% equities, and one that says, I don't want to invest in anything other than cash, or bonds, or 80% bonds. I think that it's better to, if they're a similar age, and their understanding is similar in terms of how markets work, and as the advisor, you would do your piece and try to educate them on this, that I'd prefer if they're fairly similar. Most couples that I work with are either in the same risk profile between the two of them, or one's in sort of our 70-30 equity to bonds, one's in 100% equities. That's more common, I think. The time that one has between now and wanting to access their money is relevant, and as you say, whether they're accumulating monies and putting high regular premiums in. So it's a discussion point all the time about money and risk and how much they should have in cash and how much they should invest. And then we also know that as part of being a discussion on couples and money, there are different levels of experience. People have just got different levels of experience with money, from their upbringing to what they've tried themselves. Have they bought a buy-to-let? Have they invested before? And how do they feel about it? And you do get sometimes couples that are together where one's had a lot of experience and one's had very, very little. And so that has to come out as well.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I think those family experiences really have a big impact on how we treat money and how we act with money. We kind of bring the baggage as well as the good stuff into our relationships. How about a joint account? How do you deal with a joint account? So you got a disparity. How do you sort of do that? Is it through conversation, or do you do a happy medium, or do you do the lowest?
I ask clients who they bank with, and very often they've got different bank accounts. And so one banks with HSBC, one's banks with Lloyds, and they just always have for God knows how long. And I have a meeting with them first time, perhaps it's the first time they've had an advisor, and then I ask them if they've got a joint bank account and what goes out of it. And I literally suggest in the meeting, come on, let's have all your bills go out of the same account. And I would explain what happens in the worst case scenarios on death or illness. That's what's the best thing to do. You should have a joint account. You should have separate ones. I think that's healthier. What about the discussion on children and finance? And so it's how much to spend on the children and what they should get in terms of pocket money and that sort of stuff. What do you find?
Yeah, great question. I'm going to go even back one step. Is when you first get together, have the conversation. Do you hope to have children? You know, if you do hope to have children, what's the plan? Is one of you going to stay at home and raise the children? One of you go out to work? How many children? And we go to that sort of level. We put that in the financial plan for clients. So I think that's important. When my children were young and we started buying them things, it didn't necessarily sit right for me because I'm a very process-driven individual. I like a structure and a plan. And there was no plan or structure behind this pocket money. So we developed what we call the pocket money system. And it's something that I talk about. I spoke to Del McLaren about it. So the pocket money system is basically where you give them a fixed amount of money each month. So typically that's £2 for each year of their age. So if they're 10 years old, they get £20 a month. You buy their needs, they buy their wants. And I give an example of being in, when we first started this, taken to the supermarket with Bella. Bella goes over to the pencil aisle, grabs all these pencils, rulers, rubbers, everything else, comes back to me with a puppy dog eyes, puts them out and says, Daddy, can I have these? And I looked at them and it wasn't an awful lot of money. I said, sure you can, Bella. That will come out of your pocket money. Is that okay? It's £4 or whatever. She went running back, put them all back, came back with one pencil with a little thing. Like that. I'll just get this one, Daddy. You know, it's like that. So it's empowering your children to have some kind of responsibility. We take it a step further. We try and encourage them to have like a Go Henry or an Oscar card. So they spend on that because we want to embrace spending on plastic. I think that's important. And then when they're about 13, they can have a junior bank account. And they always did chores for the money because I didn't want my kids growing up thinking, actually, money's for old rope. I can just get it. So they still put out the rubbish and they do that. They keep the rooms tidy and things. And trust me, in the early days when they missed those chores, I held back the pocket money. And it made them realize that, okay, this isn't a free lunch. We've got to do this. So the pocket money thing we major on. I talk about the pocket money system and my stories with my two kids. And do you know what? I think it's worked out all right. Bella's 17, Ollie's 19. They're different in their characters of spending money, but they're both pretty okay with money. They're pretty savvy.
As well as, we've got a future podcast that we may do on educating children on with money, which we may include. But the what I was going to say as well is there's got to be a discussion on who does the school run and who does the after school clubs, and all that's part of the discussion because all these things cost for children and how much you should spend on them and the terminology you use as well. Is it I spend or is it we spend? Is it I pay for you or do we pay for you? I think that matters as well to make sure that it's fair. But it's I think that what I would want to finalise on that point is that it should be seen as a you're both in the same boat, and there's no point. As soon as you start arguing about money, it's just a slippery slope. You've got to have a common ground. There's got to be transparency ultimately. And I wanted to mention, I wanted you to have some examples as well, to think of some. And I've got a couple of examples here of clients where their views on money are very different and how they allocate, how they deal with money. Well, have you got one that comes to mind that's either extreme or a normal one?
The best extreme example I've got is I'm in a catch-up meeting. So just a general, not a formal planning meeting, just catch-up meeting. Client comes in for coffee, we're just catching up. And he's a stay-at-home husband, okay? Wife works for dad's business he's passed away, but she's inherited the business and she earns 7 digits. Okay. So she's a big earner. And without being unkind, not necessarily through her skill, but through her inheritance, she's just inherited this wealth. And daughter rings up dad during the meeting. He takes a call and she wants some money for something. I can't remember. And he said, we've discussed this. We've said no to that. Well, I'm like, and her response was something like, I could hear her shouting on the phone. I don't care. It's not your money anyway. I'm going to speak to mum. You as a financial advisor try and keep a straight face when that's like, oh, that must have hurt. That must have hurt. Yeah. Hey, let's have a talk about this. How's it feel? What is it? What's going on? And that's the opposite. That was the husband who didn't earn the money. It was the wife who got the money. So that's a really extreme example. But yeah, what about you?
So I've got a couple of sad stories about and examples of clients I work with where one in particular, they're both divorced previously and then remarried, and the children are grown up, and this couple are in their mid-50s, but they literally don't join monies at all. Everything's separate. Don't discuss monies. My money's my money. Your money's your money. And I think that's quite unusual. Yeah. But it's also... I think it's very unhealthy, to be honest, because it makes planning virtually impossible. I can't do the planning with both of them. In fact, it's the same. I only work with one of the couples. The other one has either no advisor or just does it themselves. Right. And then there's a couple that I say there's a client that I work with where I'm his advisor and the wife's got a different advisor. So I've even thought about firing them as clients to say, look, what can I do for you here? You're just making it really difficult. And
It's particularly difficult with inheritance tax, isn't it? So
it's ridiculous, impossible, to try and plan for things like that.
You can arguably get by with retirement planning and stuff. You just look at that individual's needs, but it's very difficult with income and expenditure, and then it's very difficult with inheritance tax. Yeah, we have a couple of clients like that as well.
There's a couple in their 70s that I work with, late 70s now, and they've got children from previous marriages. So there's 6 children and 13 grandchildren, and it was a couple I encouraged to spend their money on the kids because they weren't spending it themselves. But it made the wills and the estate planning considerably more difficult and more complicated when there are kids from different marriages. But this is reality. This is what happens. Some of my favourite clients that I work with are the easiest ones to work with, and I don't just mean that they're a lovely couple, which they are, but they've done everything I suggested, and they just have a joint bank account. They've still got their own pension and ISAs, but it's just ultimate transparency. And I like that. I think that it's more fun because then when you're actually talking about encouraging them to go on holiday or they to spend their money, and you're asking them what they want to do with the rest of their lives, they can then have they're both part of that conversation as opposed to one that's just earning the money and disguising it as money or whatever, and the other one's just thinking, just sit at home. So it's the eternal discussion for a financial planner with couples where you get these problems, and I think my goal is to not have arguments and no maritals in the meeting. Is to avoid and mitigate those as much as possible. Who wants that? I'm not a marriage counsellor.
I think really the summary behind it is communicate. Have cards on the table, really complete transparency. I'm going to say it. Know what your outcome is. Okay, so
ding.
Have a plan to say, okay, this is the plan. If we have children, this is when we're going to retire. If we're going to spend this much money, that kind of thing. Make sure your different scenarios, as you said, are catered for you, or put those things in place. And dare I say it, the best way to do that is with a financial planner. So, sitting down, having an impartial person sat opposite you to guide you through this journey of life. Is that okay?
It is. I've got a little anecdote or a little excerpt actually from a book. So prior to the quotes, which I'm obviously going to include, but a little excerpt here, which I wanted to mention because it sort of put some wise words and a little bit of spin on what we've said. So this is an excerpt from a book called The Prophet by Khalil Gibran. And I asked you early on if you knew who this was. So this book was written in 1923, and he's a Lebanese American poet and writer, and it's been translated into 100 languages, The Prophet, and it's sold over 10 million copies. So it's very popular. Anyway, as an excerpt, when he asks the Prophet to tell us about marriage, it says this: "Sing and dance together and be joyous, but let each one of you be alone, even as the strings of a lute are alone, though they quiver with the same music. Give your hearts, but not into each other's keeping, for only the hand of life can contain your hearts. And stand together, yet not too near together, for the pillars of the temple stand apart, and the oak tree and the cypress tree grow not in each other's shadow."
You're wise.
So I like that because a marriage is obviously a unity, and we were talking about transparency and communication, but I think that it's also saying it's important to have your own time, to have your own money, to have your own wishes and desires and goals and things that you love to do. So it's both of those together.
Okay, so I'm going to give you my little quote, as it were. Okay,
Go on,
we'll
then.
never be this young again. Love is priceless, but the journey of life comes with expenses. Together, let's build not just a life, but have fun building a legacy.
Very good. Who said that?
Me.
Oh, you. Of course,
Yeah.
the famous Warren Shute. I've got. That's tremendous. When did you write that? You came up with that just now.
I was thinking. I meditate, so I was thinking about it when I was meditating. And that it came to me.
That's excellent. I might even say that you're intelligent, but I got my fingers crossed at the same time. So, I've got two little ones to finish on, if I may, please, before we wrap up. I quite like this Egyptian proverb that I saw recently, and I have no idea if this is true, but it did make me giggle. The Egyptian proverb goes like this in English: "If you marry a monkey for his wealth, the money goes, but the monkey remains as is." And another one here from Mark Twain, the author. Mark Twain said, "To get the full value of joy, you must have someone to divide it with."
I agree with that, definitely. Yeah.
And that's sharing your monies as a couple and sharing the joy and the happiness from the things that you do together.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah, I like that. That's that. You okay? We wrap that up for today?
I think we should.
Right.
Go on then.
Okay. Everyone, thank you so much for listening. Hopefully you've got some skills and information from that you can take back into your own relationship and make some kind of improvements. Thanks for joining us. Please remember to like and subscribe to the show and send us your questions. It's great for us to have those from the listeners so we can answer them in future episodes. So until next one, it's bye from me.
Bye from me. Thanks, guys. Have a great weekend. Bye now.
Thank you for joining us for today's discussion. If you're enjoying this show, please subscribe to our podcast. It's a great way to support us. If you have questions or comments about this podcast or topics you'd like to suggest for the show, please put these in the comments section on YouTube. Remember, if you find yourself humming our theme song for the next week, it's not a sign of brainwashing. It's just a testament to our awesomeness or possibly a mild earworm. Consult a doctor if symptoms persist. This show is designed to be informational only and does not constitute investment or financial advice. Please contact a regulated financial advisor before taking any specific action.